I knew where my place was in that room before anyone stood up. I was at the end of the long table near the server's path, close enough to refill water glasses without being asked. I'd helped choose the menu, coordinated seating, even printed the place cards when the printer at my parents' house mysteriously stopped working. I'd done all of it quietly, the way I always did. Useful, neutral, easy to overlook. The restaurant was warm and expensive in a way that tried not to look like it was. Candlelight, low music, linen napkins folded into obedient shapes. Everyone was relaxed, a little buzzed, ready for the polite speeches that rehearsal dinners are supposed to have. When my parents stood, chairs scraping softly, I assumed it would be something rehearsed and harmless. My father smiled first. My mother followed half a beat later, already gripping her wine glass like a prop. "We're just so proud," my father said, his voice carrying easily. "We wanted to say how happy we are to do this for our daughter, to pay for everything, because our real daughter deserves it." There was a pause, tiny, almost polite, unlike some people. The room didn't gasp. It didn't need to. Heads turned, not dramatically, just instinctively, like sunflowers. I felt the heat land on my face before I felt anything else. I didn't look at my sister. I already knew she was frozen. She hated conflict, especially the kind she benefited from. For a second, my old reflex kicked in, the urge to disappear, to laugh it off, to make myself smaller so the moment could pass. That reflex had been trained carefully over years. It was efficient, familiar. But something in me didn't move. Maybe it was the fact that this time they'd said it out loud. Or maybe it was the exhaustion of being the only one expected to absorb it gracefully. I picked up my glass. Not fast, not slow, just enough to interrupt the silence before it hardened into something permanent. I smiled, the polite kind that doesn't ask for permission. "I'm the executive." 3 words, that was all. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't look at my parents when I said it. I looked at the table, at the condensation ring my glass had already made. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then my mother's face changed. Not into anger, not into outrage, into calculation gone wrong. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a language she thought she controlled. Before she could respond, someone else stood. Margaret, my grandmother's attorney, had been invited as a family friend. She was seated near the middle, posture straight, hands folded. She didn't look at me first. She looked at my parents. "I think," she said calmly, "this might be a good moment to pause speeches." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of rooms where people listened when she spoke. "There are boundaries," she continued, "especially at family events, and since certain legal roles have been referenced, I want to be clear for everyone's comfort. Those matters are settled and not open for public commentary." The air shifted, not dramatically, but unmistakably. The restaurant manager appeared beside her, as if summoned by tone alone. He nodded knowingly, the way professionals do when they recognize authority. "We do have a policy," he added gently, "about keeping remarks respectful. We'd like the evening to continue pleasantly." My father sat down without speaking. My mother followed, her glass untouched. No one looked at me now. They didn't need to. The moment had moved past me, the way weather does once it's done what it came to do. Conversation restarted in careful fragments. Someone laughed a little too loudly. Forks resumed their work. My sister leaned toward me once, whispered my name, then stopped. There was nothing she could say that wouldn't expose the truth she preferred stayed buried. I stayed through dessert. I didn't leave early. I didn't linger either. When the check came, it was handled quietly. The manager spoke briefly with Margaret. Nothing was announced. Nothing needed to be. Outside, the night air felt neutral, honest. My parents didn't follow me. They didn't call after me. Power, I'd learned, doesn't always chase. Sometimes it just notices it's no longer alone. I walked to my car without shaking. There was no victory rush, no sense of triumph, just a steady calm where the old ache usually lived. They hadn't apologized. They might never. That wasn't new. What was new was this. I hadn't carried their words out with me. I'd left them where they belonged, on the table, cooling, no longer mine to manage.